just 70 days until Texans go to the polls to vote for president, we tagged along with the Texas Secretary of State as he tries to raise voting awareness. But KXAN political reporter Phil Prazin shows us critics of Texas voting laws aren't exactly impressed.
Secretary of State Carlos Cascos spoke to a class on the University of Texas campus, and at the end he answered questions. One question from a student was why a student ID wasn't an approved form of voter identification.
I just kind of punted off to the legislature. I mean, they have decided that for whatever reason that the college IDs are not acceptable. That's not my call.
After ruling the strict Texas voter ID law didn't comply with the Voting Rights Act, an appeals court ordered the state to spend $2.5 million on voter outreach. And Manny Garcia from the Texas State Democrats is skeptical.
If we're going to see that any of that money goes into places where communities are not being affected by voter ID, goes into places where instead the message is suppressing the vote.
He says the state was required to distribute information kits, but he hasn't heard yet what groups will spread the message.
If you say voting is easy, here's what you need to do, 1, 2, 3, then that's $2.5 million well spent.
The Secretary of State says he'll go to any place that invites him to speak about voting. And here he made an impression on 20-year-old Deanna Hausman.
Just encouraging everyone to get registered, everyone to vote, no matter which candidate they were going to vote for.
And with 68 days and counting to Election Day. Phil Prazin, KXAN News.
The turnout effort comes after federal courts blocked a Texas law that required you to show a photo ID before you could vote. The state law only allowed the 7 types of photo identification you see there on your screen, but the federal ruling gives people who do not have those types of ID some other options. The ruling lets people vote if they sign an affidavit saying they are an American citizen. Then they can show a document that proves where they live, something like a utility bill.